Picking the most efficient six-seat airplane isn't about who posts the prettiest cruise number. It's about how far, how affordably, and how comfortably you can move real people and real bags on real trips, not spreadsheet missions. Forget marketing range figures with 2 people and minimum fuel. We're looking at aircraft that turn fuel into family miles at economy power with IFR reserves and payloads that reflect how they're actually flown. Number 1. Diamond DA62. Among 6- and 7-seat piston tourers, nothing turns fuel into distance quite like the Diamond DA62. Its pair of Austro AE330 turbo diesel engines routinely return about 11 nautical miles per gallon at economy cruise, efficiency few 6- or 7-seat airplanes can match. Expect approximately 175 knots at around 16 gallons per hour total fuel burn in typical cruise, translating to about 11 nautical miles per gallon. If you pull power back to approximately 12.5 gallons per hour total, true airspeed usually drops closer to 160 knots. With Jet A averaging about $6.50 per gallon in many regions, fuel costs sit near $104 per hour. Add reserves, scheduled maintenance, and engine and propeller overhaul accruals, and most owners report a true direct operating cost of around $235 per hour, often closer to a high-performance single than a twin. With 86 gallons usable, the book range exceeds 1,000 nautical miles with reserves. Loaded as most owners do, 5 adults, baggage, and full fuel, and you will still see approximately 900 nautical miles, or about 6.2 hours of endurance. If you fill all 7 seats, you will likely need to leave around 22 gallons behind, trimming range closer to 700 nautical miles. The DA62's biggest surprise is not its fuel burn, it is scheduled maintenance. Austro gearbox inspections and propeller governor service intervals are more frequent than those on Lycoming or Continental engines. Insurance costs can also be higher due to the airplane's hull value. Still, the simplicity of operation, no mixture, no magnetos, and single-lever power control keeps day-to-day flying straightforward, and single-engine handling is among the best in its class. Number 2. Beechcraft Bonanza G36. The Beechcraft Bonanza G36 remains one of the most balanced 6-seat tourers available for pilots who value simplicity, predictability, and respectable economy without stepping into the complexity of a twin or the cost of a turbine. Its IO550B engine and clean airframe turn modest fuel flow into serious cross-country speed, and with careful engine management it can come surprisingly close to the DA62 in real-world efficiency. Most owners plan on about 162 knots at 12 gallons per hour, depending on whether they are running lean of peak or rich of peak. Lean of peak operation at about 162 knots on 12 gallons per hour yields roughly 13 nautical miles per gallon in clean, well-rigged examples, while staying rich of peak still delivers a solid 12 nautical miles per gallon. With avgas at approximately $7 per gallon, fuel cost lands around $84 per hour, and when you factor in oil, maintenance, reserves, and engine and propeller accruals, typical direct operating cost is about $205 per hour, among the lowest for any 6-seat traveling airplane. The book range is about 925 nautical miles on full fuel, but that assumes only 2 or 3 people aboard. With 4 adults and baggage, you will still manage approximately 800 nautical miles with IFR reserves. If you fill all 6 seats, you will likely trade about 18 gallons for payload, bringing range closer to 650 nautical miles. Useful load usually sits around 1,150 pounds, but many owners manage weight with partial fuel to balance trip legs. The Bonanza's simplicity keeps surprises to a minimum, but they are not non-existent. The IO550 engine is robust, but requires careful cylinder temperature management, especially when operated lean of peak. Engine baffling and cowl seals need regular attention, and magneto inspections and exhaust system maintenance can become costly if neglected. Landing gear rigging is generally trouble-free, but older models with worn gear doors or loose linkage can create drag and cost you airspeed. Overall, the G36 is one of the easiest 6-seat aircraft to operate economically, provided you stay ahead of engine health and lean properly. Number 3. Cessna 210. For pilots who regularly fill seats and need genuine cross-country performance, the Cessna 210 occupies a sweet spot that few single-engine aircraft can match. It combines a large airplane payload with single-engine efficiency, delivering impressive range, speed, and load-carrying capability without the overhead of twin ownership. A typical economy cruise is about 170 knots on 14 gallons per hour at roughly 70% power. That translates to about 12 nautical miles per gallon, and often slightly more if you run lean of peak. With avgas near $7 per gallon, fuel costs average about $98 per hour, and total direct operating cost usually falls around $225 per hour, depending on engine time, propeller cycles, and avionics condition. A strong useful load, typically about 1,125 pounds, is what sets the 210 apart. With 90 gallons full fuel eating 540 pounds into useful load, you will still have around 585 pounds for passengers and baggage, which is roughly 3 adults plus luggage. If you need to fill all 6 seats, you will trade fuel for payload and should plan on about 600 nautical miles with IFR reserves at economy power. In a more typical family load scenario, 4 to 5 people with baggage, plan for about 800 nautical miles with IFR reserves at economy power. The Cessna 210's operating economics are strong, but ownership comes with certain traps. Landing gear rigging and actuator maintenance can become expensive if neglected. Proper rigging directly affects both reliability and drag. The airframe is robust but mechanically complex. Older models often require attention to control cable tension, fuel selector valves, and flap motor assemblies. Corrosion in the carry-through spar is another inspection priority on aging airframes. Cylinder head temperature management is critical on long climbs, and older engines may require upgraded baffling or cowl flaps to maintain acceptable temperatures. Stay ahead of these items, and the 210 remains one of the most capable and cost-effective 6-seat singles ever built. Number 4. Piper PA-46 M350. The Piper PA-46 M350 sits at the upper edge of piston-powered personal transport, a true cross-country platform with a pressurized cabin, flight-level capability, and serious comfort, all while still delivering competitive miles per gallon. It is not the cheapest airplane to own, but for pilots pursuing long legs and weather flexibility without stepping into turbine costs, it earns its place. Cruising at approximately 192 knots typically requires around 20 gallons per hour rich of peak. If you pull power back to approximately 17.5 gallons per hour lean of peak, expect around 184 knots. That works out to about 9.6 nautical miles per gallon. Impressive for a pressurized single cruising above most weather. Fuel costs run about $140 per hour, and total direct operating cost typically falls around $290 per hour once you factor in maintenance, insurance, and overhaul reserves. The M350's useful load is usually around 1,200 pounds, and with full fuel, you will have roughly 525 pounds remaining, enough for 3 adults and their baggage without sacrificing range. In that configuration, you can realistically plan for approximately 900 nautical miles with IFR reserves. Loading 5 or 6 passengers requires pulling fuel, and range drops closer to 650 nautical miles. Still plenty for regional trips, but well short of the book figures. The M350's biggest operational challenges come from its system's complexity. Pressurization seals, de-icing boots, and cabin windows require regular inspections and can be costly if deferred. Engine overhauls are more expensive than on non-pressurized singles, and insurance premiums often reflect the higher hull value. Pay close attention to climb cylinder head temperatures. Baffling must be tight, and climbs should be stepped to stay within limits. If you are disciplined with power settings and temperature management, however, the M350 rewards you with turbine-like comfort, weather-beating altitude, and cross-country range that is hard to match in the piston world. Number 5. Piper Cherokee Six 300. If there is a piston airplane that truly earns the minivan with wings label, it is the Piper Cherokee Six 300. It trades speed and glamour for payload, simplicity, and reliability. A trade-off that often makes sense for owners who care more about hauling people and gear than shaving minutes off the flight plan. Expect around 140 knots at typical cruise power while burning approximately 14.5 gallons per hour, yielding about 9.8 nautical miles per gallon. With aviation gasoline priced around $7 per gallon, fuel costs sit near $102 per hour, and overall direct operating cost usually runs about $250 per hour, depending on maintenance practices and utilization. Simpler systems. Fixed landing gear, no turbocharger, and no pressurization help keep operating costs predictable and inspection bills lower than most six-seat aircraft. Useful load is typically about 1,400 pounds, and with full fuel, roughly 84 gallons usable, you will have around 875 pounds remaining, enough for 5 adults and baggage without compromising endurance. Fully loaded with 6 people, you will likely remove about 17.5 gallons of fuel to remain within weight limits, trimming range to around 650 nautical miles. With a lighter load or partial fuel, you can stretch range to about 800 nautical miles with IFR reserves. The Cherokee Six is straightforward to own, but there are a few operational considerations. It is a relatively draggy airframe. Sloppy rigging, old fairings, or misaligned wheel pants can cost you about 7 knots and noticeable additional fuel burn. Engine baffling and cowl seals are often overlooked, but make a significant difference in cylinder head temperature control. While the Lycoming 0540 engine is rugged, it rewards proper leaning technique and steady power changes. The real financial surprises often come from paint, interior, or avionics modernization, as many Cherokee 6 aircraft are older airframes. Mechanically, however, this is one of the least fussy six-seaters in the sky, a reliable hauler that simply gets the job done. Number 6. Piper Saratoga Saratoga II TC. The Saratoga family builds on the brute utility of the Cherokee 6 and adds refinement, range, and speed. Whether in fixed gear or turbocharged retractable form, it is a serious cross-country platform that still hauls a real family load without crushing direct operating costs. For the normally aspirated fixed-gear version, plan on about 144 knots on 14 gallons per hour, roughly 10.4 nautical miles per gallon. Step up to the turbocharged Saratoga II TC and you will see about 160 knots on approximately 17 gallons per hour, which works out to around 9.4 nautical miles per gallon. Fuel costs sit around $105 per hour, with total direct operating costs typically about $240 per hour depending on variant, engine time, and landing gear cycle history. With a useful load often between 1,200 and 1,300 pounds, you will have roughly 725 pounds available with full fuel, ideal for 4 to 5 adults plus baggage. Push to full 6-seat occupancy and you will likely trade about 20 gallons of fuel, reducing range to about 650 nautical miles. Typical real-world endurance with a family load is approximately 825 nautical miles with reserves. The turbocharged model adds flexibility here. In thin summer air or over mountainous terrain, it maintains full cruise power well above 10,000 feet, preserving both range and climb performance. Retractable gear Saratogas require more attention than their fixed-gear siblings. Landing gear motor overhauls, uplock rollers, and actuator seals are common inspection items. Turbocharged models add wastegate and intercooler service to the maintenance schedule, and poor engine management can significantly shorten turbocharger life. Despite this, maintenance costs remain reasonable compared to cabin-class singles, and the added performance often outweighs the extra upkeep. Owners also report that careful engine temperature control and early attention to airframe rigging make a noticeable difference in both fuel consumption and airspeed. Number 7. Cessna 185 Skywagon. The 185 Skywagon is as close as piston aviation gets to a flying pickup truck. Rugged, powerful, and surprisingly efficient for an aircraft that can haul heavy, operate off rough strips, and still cover serious distance. It's a backcountry hauler that doesn't punish you on fuel bills. At a typical cruise setting of about 68% power, expect 141 knots while burning roughly 14.3 gallons per hour, translating to about 9.9 nautical miles per gallon. Fuel cost averages $98 per hour, and with maintenance, reserves, and propeller accrual added, total direct operating cost generally runs around $225 per hour, a respectable figure for a heavy-hauling taildragger. A useful load just over 1,200 pounds is the 185's calling card. With full fuel, about 84 gallons usable, you'll still have about 725 pounds left, enough for 4 adults, bags, and gear. If you fill all 6 seats or add heavy backcountry equipment, you'll often trade about 18 gallons for weight, cutting range to roughly 650 nautical miles. With lighter loading, plan for about 800 nautical miles with reserves. Amphibious gear, tundra tires, or cargo pods will reduce range and speed, but the trade-off is unmatched mission flexibility. The 185's simplicity keeps most expenses predictable, but there are a few operational realities. Tailwheel maintenance, particularly tail spring assemblies and shimmy dampers, requires vigilance. Large tires, short takeoff and landing kits, and utility mods add drag and raise fuel burn. The IO520, or IO550 under the cowl, is robust but demands strict cylinder head temperature management, especially during extended climbs or hot weather. Propeller governors also see increased stress in backcountry operations. Still, for pilots needing real payload and unimproved field capability, the 185 remains one of the most capable and cost-effective tools in general aviation. Number 8. Cessna T206H Stationair. If you need to haul a real family load into short strips, carry bulky gear, or operate from places where runway is a loose term, the T206H is one of the most capable 6-seat piston aircraft ever built. It's not the fastest or cheapest to run, but its combination of space, power, and utility makes it a favorite for owners who value mission flexibility above all else. Expect around 153 knots in cruise on roughly 16.3 gallons per hour, giving an efficiency of about 9.4 nautical miles per gallon. With avgas around $7 per gallon, fuel runs about $140 per hour, and total direct operating cost typically falls around $250 per hour. Add floats, cargo pods, or tundra tires, and that figure will rise, but so will mission capability. Useful load is generally about 1,375 pounds. With full fuel, about 88 gallons usable, you'll still have roughly 775 pounds available, enough for 4 adults and bags without compromising range. Carrying all 6 people and gear typically means trading about 23 gallons for payload, which reduces range to around 650 nautical miles. In a typical family load scenario, 5 people and luggage, you can plan for about 800 nautical miles with reserves. Turbocharged versions particularly shine above 10,000 feet, where they maintain power and speed deep into thinner air. The Stationair's simplicity hides a few cost traps. Landing gear bushings, cargo door seals, and flap tracks experience heavy wear and require regular attention. If you operate from water or gravel, expect more frequent corrosion checks and propeller dressing. Turbocharged models demand careful wastegate and temperature management to keep maintenance predictable. Amphibs, skis, or cargo pods can reduce cruise speed by about 12 knots and raise fuel burn. But that's the price of capability. Kept light and clean, the T206 remains a workhorse that delivers honest efficiency over real distances. Number 9. Piper Seneca V. For pilots who routinely fly IFR with full seats and value redundancy, climb performance, and weather capability, the Seneca V is one of the most balanced piston twins available. It's not cheap to run, but per seat and per mile costs become competitive when you actually use the airplane's capacity. Plan on about 195 knots in cruise on roughly 26 gallons per hour total, which equates to about 7.5 nautical miles per gallon. With fuel near $7 per gallon, that's about $182 per hour in fuel alone. Add twin-engine maintenance, propeller and overhaul reserves, and you're typically looking at a direct operating cost of about $365 per hour. While not inexpensive, the economics shift dramatically when flying with 5 or 6 people aboard. A useful load of about 1,450 pounds means you can often fill 4 to 5 seats and still carry full fuel, keeping range near 800 nautical miles with reserves. Loading all 6 seats usually requires removing about 23 gallons, which reduces range to about 650 nautical miles. Climb performance remains strong even at maximum weight, and the second engine provides valuable flexibility in terrain, weather, and night operations that singles cannot match. The Seneca's hidden costs mostly stem from twin complexity. Turbocharger and intercooler servicing, magnetosynchronization, and precise engine balancing are critical to both longevity and comfort. Engine temperature management, especially during climb, is more demanding than on a single. Propeller governor overhauls and cowl flap rigging are common maintenance items, and owners should budget realistically for annuals, which are significantly higher than for a single-engine airplane. Still, the Seneca V's smooth handling, redundancy, and IFR capability make it an appealing choice for operators who regularly fill seats and value safety margins. Number 10. Cessna 337 Skymaster. The Cessna 337 Skymaster is one of the most unconventional six-seat twins ever built, and that's its strength. With push-pull centerline thrust, you get twin-engine redundancy without asymmetric handling challenges, and performance close to a high-performance single, but with greater safety and climb margins. A typical cruise profile shows about 169 knots on roughly 21.8 gallons per hour total, yielding approximately 7.8 nautical miles per gallon. Fuel cost averages around $153 per hour, and once you include twin-engine maintenance, propeller overhauls, and reserves, most owners see a direct operating cost near $335 per hour, still competitive with many conventional twins due to simpler handling and systems. Useful load is typically about 1,400 pounds. With full fuel, around 93 gallons usable, you'll still have about 725 pounds for passengers and baggage, enough for 4 adults plus luggage without cutting into endurance. In this configuration, you can expect roughly 700 nautical miles with reserves. Fill all 6 seats, and you'll likely offload about 23 gallons, trimming range to approximately 550 nautical miles. The Skymaster's stable handling and docile single-engine behavior make it particularly appealing for pilots who value safety margins over sheer performance. The main operational concern with the 337 is cooling. The rear engine runs hotter and requires vigilant temperature monitoring, especially during climb or in hot conditions. Engine baffling must be in top condition, and proper cowling fit is essential. Access for rear engine maintenance is also more time-consuming, which adds labor hours. Propeller synchronization is important, as it directly affects cabin comfort. Managed well, the Skymaster offers a rare combination: twin redundancy, predictable handling, and per-seat economics that remain competitive for a two-engine aircraft. Leaving a comment and liking the video helps me a lot. You can also subscribe.